Hello, everybody. It is 10 a.m. Pacific on Tuesday, April 9th, so we're doing the product series today. I'm going to give everyone a couple more minutes to trickle in. I see the attendee count is slowly rising here, but we'll give everybody a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Daria, just while we get things set up here, just to confirm, can you see my screen? We're looking at the product series slide.
Yeah, Talia, you're all good.
Awesome, thank you. All right, for everyone new joining us, we're just giving everybody a couple more minutes to trickle in. Daria and I are here ready to go. It's another episode of the product series. You may have been with us last, I guess it would have been January?
January.
Gosh, that feels like it was just a few weeks ago.
I know, right? Time is flying by quickly, but it's that much closer to summer, so I'm excited.
Well, that's the thing too, is the next product series, it's just going to be full-blown summer and we'll be, yeah.
Well, I'll be tan watching this next time.
Next time you see this, everybody, I won't be glowing. Fingers crossed. But it's actually funny. I was thinking about it the other day. The last product series that we had, Daria was also helping me out. And I think we had a little chat about winter sports. We were talking about snowboarding, if I'm not mistaken. And then you needed like the week afterwards, I think, to break or sprain. Break your arm.
It was like the month after, but it was one of the first times I was going snowboarding, super excited for the season. And then, yeah, towards like the end of the run, broke my wrist and was out. And I'm out for the rest of the season, so.
Not good, but we were just fine. She just got her cast off, so.
Two functioning hands.
Excellent. Well, it is spring. It is the second product series of the year. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, let's get started. So I hope everyone can see my screen here. Like I was just going on about, this is the product series. So if it's your first time joining us, this is a quarterly webinar that we host where we talk about the different feature improvements that we made in the previous quarter. And we talk about what you can expect to see in the upcoming quarter. So definitely going through talking about what we made and why, how to use it, how to get the most out of it, and then what you can like anticipate coming up. So first, a bit of introductions, also if it's your first time joining us. Daria, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, for sure. Hey everyone, so I'm Daria. I'm a customer success manager here at Function Point. I work alongside Talia. Today I'll be doing the co-hosting and I'll be managing the question box. So if at any time you have any questions, feel free to write it down and then we'll get back to you. But yeah, looking forward for an exciting webinar, and Talia, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you. And yes, I'm Talia. If you haven't met me, I am the product manager here at Function Point. So you may see me hosting focus groups, reaching out because your CSM has put us in contact because I think you might have some really good feedback and insight to give on new features. And then I host these webinars as well, basically coordinating our roadmap and making sure we're putting all the things on it that you'd like to see. So with that, I'll get started. Like Daria mentioned, send in your questions if you have any. I'll be taking regular stops to make sure that we talk about them. And this is also going to be recorded. So if you want to look back on it, give this training to maybe other people in your agency, or if you know some other people on your team who weren't able to make it, know that they will be getting a recording as well and like a follow-up email. Okay. So with that, we can get going. Today we've done the introductions. We are going to talk about what we did in Q1 of 2024, get to know those recent features and improvements, and then we're going to talk about what's coming up. You've heard me say this, I just have a slide for it now. what we've done. So in February, we released the Minor Improvement Collection, which is just a bundle of goodies for pretty much everybody. We did the same thing last quarter as well. And it's really just something that like all of them aren't, you know, massive life-changing features, but I don't know, maybe they are for some of you. It's like what you've been waiting on. That's really what the goal of the Minor Improvement Collection is just those little things that are just going to make your day a little bit simpler, smoother, and just a bundle so that there's something in it for everybody. And then the big ones, the ones we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today, is front-loading the work planning view, as well as capacity planning for estimated services. These are our most recent releases. It actually came out last week. I'm very excited to talk about it. It's been really top of mind for the last few months and just all we've been talking about internally. So I'm very excited to share it all with you. So with that, I'll get into the system, and I'm going to talk really briefly before we get into those about this item-based note and email templates. I'm not going to go into all the minor improvement items, but I just kind of wanted to show off this little one because it's a cool little feature. It has to do with adding notes to the system and also emailing from the system. If you go into admin, if you had admin permissions, of course, and you go into feature management, you're then able to see note and email templates. So we obviously can, when we're like notifying a client from the system of an invoice, or when we're adding notes to jobs, we have lots of options for what we want to, we can like pre-fill that note and pre-fill that email. And this is where you go to set it up. Also, I'm going to turn off my camera here so that I'm just going to look at my screen and you don't just have to see the side of my face. Turning off my camera. And Daria, can you just give me a heads up that you can still see my screen? I didn't turn that off.
Yeah, you're all good.
Awesome, cool, just wanted to make sure.
No worries.
From the screen, you're gonna click add template. And let's say we wanna create an email to send out when we have a new invoice for a customer. So we can give the name give the email a title, and we could just say new invoice. Oops. I'll do number. You'll see at the bottom here, we have all of this contact information that already existed, but what we added in there was these items, estimates, jobs, project information. So I can take this and I can just plug it in, and then I can just be like, hey, let's do the first name of our contact. It's going to pick all of this up. You can say something like, here's your invoice for your newest job, and then you probably make it look a lot nicer than this, a little bit more eloquent, but just for the sake of showing you what's up. Thanks. And then I can put in something like the sent by. And then I'm going to show you how this turns out. So the thing is like if I'm adding this as a note to a job, it's not going to see an invoice number, so it's not really going to be applicable. But when it is somewhere that it can be used, it's going to see it, it's going to pull that invoice number, and you're going to be able to fill in the blanks basically. I'm going to go to this invoice here that I already have created, and we see at the top the notify client feature. And I have a contact, so it'll pre-fill that information, and of course it is on an invoice. That was the one I just created there, the new invoice number, and you'll see it pre-fills it. So we can reference that number exactly. We can reference the job name in the email. And of course, we have our names in there like we were always able to do. So something kind of cool. A lot of people didn't know that those templates existed in the first place, but wanted to bring it up again for sure because we did push it a bit further and make sure that you can reference those invoices, jobs, projects, estimates. Now, we're going to dive into like the meat of what we're talking about today, which is really the work planning view. So I am going to go to the work planning view. And for some of you, this might be really a continuation of a webinar that we did about a month ago. Our wonderful Jess hosted a more of a training session specifically on the work planning view and the way it functions just in general, like what it's useful for and all of the regular features, kind of setting me up to show you all of these new features that we've added to it. So I'm going to kind of pick up there and really talk about some of the newer things. The first thing that we're going to talk about today is front loading. And really generally the concept about this is The work planning view as it is currently takes the time that you have estimated on a task that you've then allocated to an individual and you put a date range on, and it splits that time out amongst the days between the start and the due date, which is great for getting a general understanding of how much time is filling up this work calendar, but it's not typically how somebody's actually going to work on it. You know, if I have a 10-hour task you'll have from Monday to Friday to work on it, I'm probably not going to spend 2 hours every single day trying to execute it. And with a lot of tasks on the go, we really wanted to layer in some logic into how some of these tasks should actually be executed to help you understand a good order of importance, but also so that it can be a more insightful allocation of time. And so I'm going to pull up my screen again here because I want to show you this is generally the logic for how we are sorting it. Of course, we have a ton of tasks in the work planning view, and if we're going to front load it, the logic can't simply be do all of it as soon as possible. There has to be some way to apply an order of importance to the different tasks that it's working with. So know that when two tasks are going to be decided, which one we should prioritize sooner in terms of the allocation of estimated services, what we want to look at first is due date. That's what the system's going to prioritize, which one just needs to be done sooner. Then we're going to look at priority, which one has a higher importance. And I'm going to spend some time in a little bit talking about this because we've layered in some really important new features in terms of setting up your own custom priority levels. And then if due date's the same, they're both due on Friday, they're both normal importance, then we're going to look at start date, which one can you simply start sooner, and then creation date. If all of that's the same, it's like, all right, well, which one just existed first? We'll prioritize that. So this is the logic that's happening behind the scenes. And I'm going to go back into my system here and to show you it in action. I'm going to zoom in here just so that we can really talk about 1 week as a nice little example here. If we are looking at Jimmy, we can see this looks like a bit of a problematic week. We're seeing a lot of red on this screen in general. Like it looks like we have over allocated Jimmy and Tom and for multiple weeks. But what's really happening, and this is a new feature also, when I hover, you're gonna get to see what is happening behind the scenes, what logic we've applied and how we're breaking out the time left. You can see here on that little pop-up, it says estimated 16 hours, actual 4. So right now we know that there's a remainder of 12 hours that's left to be done on this task, and it's splitting it up amongst the remaining days between the due date. And so 3, 3, 3 across the board. Like I said, Jimmy's probably not going to work on it like that. But what that's doing is because of that even allocation, it's making it look like we're going to have a problem with Jimmy having way too much to do on these days. If you scroll down to the bottom of your screen here, you're going to see this new calculation section. We set it up in a new section because we do have some other ideas for some new calculation options that are going to be coming to the work planning view. So kind of setting the scene for some more options to come. But first and foremost, we have your front loading capacity. So we can change it from allocating equally to front loading. And when I do that, we're going to see a pretty big shift. There's a lot more yellow instead of red. We can see that we've actually met our 8 out of 8 for all 3 first days. And then we actually have some time at the end. This week just went from being like, oh my gosh, is Jimmy actually going to be able to do this? It looks like he's going to have a horrible week, to being like, no, we actually really properly allocated Jimmy for this week. He has just enough time to fill up Tuesday through Thursday, and he has a little bit of extra time on Friday. Whether your traffic manager and project managers want to throw on a couple more tasks in there to really get Friday up to 8, or you like to leave a little bit of that wiggle room, that's up to you, but now you have a little bit more of an idea of how this is more likely to be done. And behind the scenes, when we're wondering, how did the system actually decide that? I can hover over here and we can see, while the task coding and testing could be worked on from Tuesday to Friday, we're saying just work on it Thursday and Friday and prioritize production. The reason being really obvious there, this one's due sooner. Let's get it done first. And we're not doing an all 8 hours on the Tuesday here because we have 1 hour of a team meeting. So it knows to break that up to make room for the other things that are just a day and needs to happen. But basically the front loading just prioritizes this 8 hours here. It looks towards how much work the person can actually do. We fill up that time And then at the end of the week, like we're seeing again here, that's where we can show where we're going to have an issue if we do truly want somebody to get all of these things done. So that's a really basic example of the way that work planning view works. This is a bad week made better. We did a good job in terms of project managing this. Now, this is a really good example here for Jimmy of we have daily tasks, we have weekly tasks, but the goal here was that people who project manage on more of that like granular basis, these are the dates that's truly something can be started and done, could work with it really efficiently. But we also wanted to make sure that even for those who had longer tasks, say like you just need to do it this month, something really common when we look at like web developers, we're not going to manage them down to the day perhaps, but you have 3 weeks to get these tasks done. They're like 40-hour tasks each, they're massive, so do with it what you need to do. And splitting it up, of course, like it did allocate equally, wasn't super helpful. We can see here for Katrina, we have 3 pretty long tasks, the ones in blue here, and it allows us to really distinguish, okay, these are my start and my due dates, but what are my work days? And that kind of switch is what allows us to still set those more general start and due days and not have to project manage too granularly for the things that it just doesn't make sense to, but then also give insight to traffic managers and the actual team member of when a good idea to work on this is. So that's another key piece of why we created this. It's really helpful for project managers and traffic managers, absolutely. But we also know a lot of people who give their creative team and their web developers and all of the end users, give them access to the work planning view so that they can see what they have on the go. And with all those tasks lined up, it could be a bit overwhelming, but here we're actually layering in some suggestions for them. Yes, you have these 3 blue tasks on your plate, but what do we recommend you work on first? And the answer is this web maintenance one. Now, the reason being here, we'll dive in, and I want to keep calling this out so that we can get really familiar with how the logic is applied in the back end. We have 2 tasks here that I want you to look at, the coding and the testing, which is due on the 26th, you can see here, but so is this one. And web maintenance is coming first. The reason for that is because I have this one marked as a high priority. If I click on it, you'll see here, priority is marked high. So even though it has the exact same due date as coding and testing, this one's marked as high priority. So it's telling us, give that one a go first, and then we move on to the coding and testing. And then of course, we have web design, which can happen after the fact because it's due a little later. So now something else that I want to dive into, another scenario that's going to be good to take a closer look at. I'm going to look at Jimmy again. We're going to look at this second week here. Something that, as I've been kind of showing this off, I wanted to really look at is it's great to have this insight, but now when we actually have to make decisions, say everything's not okay, the work planning view does its job and it shows us something's amiss here, something's not going to happen, right? We have Jimmy here. The week is totally like overbooked. We can tell that for sure. We're going to have trouble specifically with Jimmy being able to complete this design asset because all of these other items are really taking priority. What we can do here, of course, is you can then make those informed decisions. Jimmy's totally free the first like 1-2 days of the next week. Is this something we can just come here and say, yeah, go for it. You have 2 extra days to work on that. We can give you that time. Make up for it somewhere else in the schedule, that kind of a thing. And our problem's solved. Maybe that's not the case. And it truly is, it has dependent tasks that need to kick off the following week. So we need design assets number 2 to be completed for Friday. We're in the perfect spot to really reallocate this to somebody else. So I'm going to just go over here. We can really easily just click into that and say, you know what, Jenny has time. Let's move that up here and we're going to be correcting this issue. And now Jenny also, which we were under resourcing, has a little bit more on her plate and something manageable. Now, the next thing I want to look at here, which is pretty cool, and it's something I've been getting questions about a lot, especially as people like to work with longer tasks, but then some smaller tasks within there that need to basically kind of take priority right away. So basically you have a longer task, yes, work on it, but then put it down while other things come up. And we can see that happening with this sketching one. I have an on-site task here. So we're going to be on site with the client. It's a full 8 hours, just a very basic kind of scenario to show this off. But basically it does allow for the work days on a task to not all fall together. It can be broken up so that you can basically go in and out of it to work on other tasks that need to take priority, while that one kind of goes on in the background and happens when it can. It's another good example. So the next big thing that we want to look at is, how do you impact these tasks? I want to look at something like these longer ones here. We have Beth. We can see that. I'm going to zoom out a bit. We spoke about using priority. So of course I have the logo design here. This is a long task. It's due on May 3rd, another May 3rd, another May 3rd. And all of these have, let me double check, yeah, a priority of normal, or they don't have one at all. That's something I actually was really important for me to call out. This does not have a priority setting. So in terms of all of the, when we apply the logic for front loading, something that does not have a priority setting is going to be considered normal priority. Just for everyone who maybe isn't using priority settings yet and wondering what's going to happen in their system, we just consider it normal. But let's say like logo design, which is actually getting pushed a little bit farther back here. Brochure layout design is getting put forward because it was probably created first. Logo design, something, yeah, technically we have until May 3rd for, but we're a little bit nervous about it. Maybe the client's like a little bit eager to see it. Let's actually move this up in priority. We're going to move it to a high priority. We just want to get this sooner, get it off our plates. The due date's not changing, but that's preferred. You can see it changes the order here. It moves it to the top. And now this week it's saying, let's work on that logo design, get that done. And it switched its order with the brochure and layout design and the signage. So that's how you can impact this. The front loading isn't just something that we apply, it's our recommendation, and then go for it. It is meant to be engaged with through that priority setting. Which brings me to some system setup that I want to show you all so that you can make the most use out of it. We've always had priority as an option for something that you can tag on a task, basically, but it's kind of all it was. It was just a tag, a way to say to somebody what priority. Now it actually has functionality. So we've layered in a few other little features in the setup. So you're going to go into admin, system setup, and list maintenance. And then we're going to scroll down to priority list. So what's new in this list is an alias column. We basically, you can set up whatever you want here. You can create your own priority lists. You just have to give them an alias so we know technically where it kind of falls. But then the other thing too is you'll see I have 2 aliases of high here. What happens then? We are going to look at this list, and we're actually going to look at the order that you've arranged it in, and whatever is higher is what we're going to consider as more important when it comes to priority lists of the same alias. So if I truly did have this the other way around, it would think high is more important than urgent. So I'm just going to make sure it's in the proper sort order. And then of course, I just like to make sure it's in the right order anyways, so that you know truly lower on the list, lower importance. We've been having some good chats with people about ways to use this priority list, and we definitely see urgent, high, normal, low, all of that's good stuff. But some people are getting a little bit more, like having some direction with these priorities. So like, do like, as soon as possible, or writing like internal, only when you have time, like kind of tags more so to indicate what sort of task it is so that it can be ranked almost. Yeah, so some people, you don't have to follow the normal, low, normal, high conventions. It's another nice way to do it. The other thing some people are using is doing like a low priority as something that is with the customer. So it's a task, it's still something we need to follow up on, but it's with the customer. So it certainly doesn't need to like fall at the top of our list right now. It can kind of go below, but at the same time, we don't want to take it off our list entirely because it's our responsibility to follow up with it eventually. So that's something people are marking them with. But yeah, this priority list is a really big deal. If you are playing around in your work planning view and you're wondering sort of what's the logic there, or something maybe isn't working as you would expect, just make sure to take a look at this page or reach out to your internal system administrator to double check what this list looks like and make sure that it matches how you would actually rank that list of priority when it comes to the front loading logic. Okay. That's the bulk of front loading. So I'm going to take a pause here, take a breath. And Daria, any questions?
No, Talia, you're all good.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. Cool. I'm glad to hear it. So I'm going to go back to this work planning view here. And the next thing I want to talk about are these little orange bars. I've conveniently been ignoring them through this whole talk because I was like, I'll get to it. I want to talk about these orange bars here. They are new. You might see them on in your system right now and you might not, but they are not tasks. They're actually estimated services. In conducting some focus groups about project management and function point and ways to make it more convenient, really, we wanted to start at the very beginning of how do we allocate resources on an estimate or a proposal, a piece of work that isn't really, it's not confirmed yet. You can create schedules on estimates, and that's fantastic if you know what you're going to be doing and you strongly use templated templated schedules, absolutely. And then you can see all those draft schedule here. But what happens when, it's not really worth our time to invest in building a whole schedule? We maybe don't have that much information yet. We haven't closed this deal yet. So we don't want to invest the time in building a full schedule, but we really need to see how this work, high level, will fit into our resourcing. And it's important to note that like some people beforehand would make a schedule, make it really light, sort of like a very simple draft version, and then build it out later on. That works too, but also it involves making two versions of the same schedule, and that could potentially confuse some of your end users who are like, is this task good? Should I use it? Is this what I need to do? So definitely, like, instead of making two versions of that schedule, we've introduced capacity planning for estimated services, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So you'll see when I click on this, it definitely stands apart. It's orange. We can see it's working just like the other taskbars. But when I click on it, you actually can't make any changes. There's a reason for that. The dates, the assignees, the hours, all of that decision for this estimated service bar is pulling from the estimate, and we don't really want to let you change that from in here because that could potentially change like the total value of your estimate. You could be changing a deal. So it's really important that to change those orange bars, we get you to go to the estimate to do it, just so that you're fully aware of the impact that you're having. So some of you might be thinking this looks totally familiar. Others might be like, what are these lines on here? I've never done that before. Most of our customers probably go and build out an estimate to this level. We add in a service group, we add in services, but those that use staff rates or decide to estimate to the staff or the role level actually build it out one step further and add in the staff that they expect will be working on it. You can put in a general start and end date, and then you associate those hours. And that allows it to roll up, inform the service of what we're actually planning on offering. And this line here, this is what pulls into your work planning view and indicates those orange bars. So this is going to be super helpful, for any estimates that you create, but really, really cool if you say are doing like a rush job. I have an estimate actually that I created. Let's say this is a rush piece of work. I've, called it rush. I put my higher rate on it because we're going to charge them a bit more for this, for giving it to us so late. I'm going to go to my services, and I just have design and project management on here to keep it super simple. I'm going to click edit, and underneath I'm going to click this little plus button. That's how I build it out a little bit more granular. And you'll see that I can choose between my staff or my role. Now, this is really important because some of you who might not have used this feature before might be like, I do not know at this stage if it's going to be Jenny doing this or Beth. But odds are you do know that the creative team is going to be doing this, this design piece. And we know that a project manager is going to be doing this. So even if you don't know who exactly it is, give it to the role. We indicate a general date. We know this customer needs it in a rush, so it's going to have to happen next week. And then we can see it pulled those hours down that we had already put in. Now, something I want to mention here is that you can build this out more, especially for those estimates that are maybe a bit larger. They're the ones a little ways out. Maybe we're going to have creative teamwork on this, but maybe you also need like a copywriter. You can build out multiple of these, and that's going to translate to multiple orange bars on the work planning view assigned to the appropriate person. So build it out as far as you'd like, to the role level, to the staff level, it'll show up. I'm just going to delete that one. So something important to note, you do need start dates in here for it to appear on the work planning view. We need a time frame to actually put in the hours. You also need to have an assignee, either to the staff or role. You don't actually need to have hours yet. It'll show up without it, but these first three fields are essential for it to populate. So now when I click save on this, I'm going to go back to that work planning view, give it a little refresh. And I'm going to see an orange bar appear in my role. So we can see here design. It showed up at top because I applied it specifically to the creative team. And maybe I knew at this point, or maybe I truly had no idea who could take this on. And so I applied it to the creative team, and I see here, perfect. It doesn't look like it's going to cause any problems. And it looks like Jenny actually potentially could take it on. She might have some time. So let's move that and see if it does. I'm just gonna go here and say, perfect. Jenny actually looks like she can take it on. Great. Now we do have an issue here, and it is showing us that we're going to be a little bit over for this because we do have this other imaging and illustration job. So ultimately what we learned, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying with Jimmy and moving his task up to Jenny, we might need to extend some due dates here, or we just simply can't take on this rush work, or we need to get started, you know, at the beginning of this week instead and utilize the Thursday, Friday that Jenny has available. But ultimately, now that we actually were able to create that rush estimate, get a rough plan in there for what team is going to be able to use it, we can make that decision. We could actually tell, hey, if you don't get those assets to us by Monday and you need it by Friday, like our design team can't handle that. And that's the information that we really need in order to make sure that we are able to meet expectations for our customers, of course, and make sure that our team members are really comfortable with the work that we've assigned to them. So that is estimating to the staff and the role level. I want to talk about that a little bit more, just aside from how it impacts the work planning view, because it may be new to some of you, and it is really important to consider. The original reason for being able to estimate to the staff role level was for the purpose of rates. So if your team exclusively uses service rates, not a problem. It's going to be fine. Jenny's going to pull in with that $200 rate, just like your $200 service. But if you use staff rates and say Beth has a different rate than Jenny, if we were to switch that, and I don't think I actually do have a different rate for Beth, we would see the rate here change. So it's just something to consider that if you use staff rates, this might be a great thing. If that's your outlook on it, it would actually make your estimates more specific to the appropriate rate that's actually going to be billed and closer to like what a time and materials invoice would look like. But if you do want to give them that like flat service rate, just give it reach out to your CSM and we can definitely advise on this. I always want to recommend when it comes to rates, reach out to your CSM because we obviously have like a really great tiered system for applying rates in the back end, you know, service rate, role rate, staff rate. We want to make sure that when you're building this estimate out, it does everything you need it to. But just be aware if you want to try this out, keep an eye on that rate. Once you add somebody else, make sure that it's still representing what you want it to. Okay. So back to the work planning view, I want to talk a little bit about what those orange bars do. They obviously represent the estimated service, what we think we're going to be doing for the customer potentially. There's a couple nuances to it. These, because they are not tasks, people can't track time to them. If this date comes and goes and you never create actual tasks on that job, it's just going to move off your work planning view. It's not going to show in this overdue column like a task actually would, because there's nothing to change the status of. So just know that it's going to go on and off. It won't clog anything up. The other thing to note is, when do those orange bars actually go away in favor of real work or work that is not going to be done? So if this is good and we feel confident in doing it, let me actually change this and the customer's okay, they can get us this work by the 11th, perfect. I can add my job. I'm going to turn this estimate into a job, and we still are going to see those orange bars on the work planning view. So a little benefit there as well is it bridges this gap also between your estimate being confirmed and moved into a new actual job, and maybe your project manager hasn't gotten to build a schedule yet, or maybe they don't want to. Maybe this is a rush job, we don't want to. It's enough for it to show that we're allocated, but the actual team member who's doing it knows what they need to do. No need to build a schedule. You don't need to, and those orange bars are just going to move off. If you do want to create a schedule though, it's super easy. For those of you who haven't built an estimate to the staff or role level, if you just go in and you click add schedule and you use the current estimate services as a template, we click submit, it's actually going to take all of that data from your estimate. It knows the task name, of course, it knows the mapping, but it also now knows the assignee, it knows your dates, it knows your hours. It just built that whole schedule for you. And it really is just like one click to turn those estimated services into actual tasks. And that is also when those orange bars will go away. I'll refresh here and you're going to see that that research is now, the research was from a previous one, but this design one, this was the rush job. That is now a purple bar. It's now an actual task. And that's when the orange bars go away. We're not doubling up between those bars and task bars. And it's now actual, like an assignment for Jenny to complete. So that is one of the ways that the orange bars will go away, is if a schedule exists on the estimate or the job, it will always choose the tasks on the schedule in favor of what we put on your work planning view. It will choose those in favor of those estimated work bars. One more piece I want to share with you about when those orange bars will go away is if the estimate is declined. So if I click to go into view estimate here, and this was looking great, but unfortunately we're not going to do it right now, you click declined, that is when it's going to go off as well, because of course we don't need to plan that into our allocation. Okay, so I'm going to take another pause. That is capacity planning for estimated services. Any questions, Daria?
Yeah, there is one here. So the question is, can a client portal user submit a job form after the estimated services estimate is created?
Totally, yes. Because a client portal user, when they submit a form, it comes into the system in the form of a brief. And a lot of people will take those briefs and turn them into estimates. However, maybe you knew it was coming down the pipe. You already created an estimate for it, and then they finally got in their brief to send you all of the forms and whatnot that need to be completed alongside it. You can totally go into that form and brief and just manually link it to the estimate. So definitely an estimate built to that staff role level can totally come before the schedule form and brief. And I totally see why you're asking it. It's let's get that on our work planning view. If we know that it's something that's coming down the pipe, we're eager to see how it's going to factor into our resourcing, and we might jump the gun before somebody can actually submit that brief. Totally okay. You can link them up after the fact.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all from the questions so far.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to take a little spin around a couple other fun features in the work planning view. First one, we added more filters. people wanted to see it. We want to be able to filter out like non-billable jobs. Maybe you want to see truly just how we are allocated for things that are for clients that are billable. We want to get those in-house jobs out of here. You can do that. We also added in estimate status. So if you do want to just see what are we planning for all of our things that are like submitted with customers, super relevant when we think about the work bar type. So lots more options there. And please feel free to submit any ideas to our AHA portal. If you are missing anything on this filter list, let us know. We'll definitely add to it. For anyone who needs a reminder, click the little help button in the corner there. Oops, sorry, this is my demo system, so it's not actually set up to it. But if you click in there, there's another button to submit an ID. Please send it in and we can totally add more filters to this list if it makes sense. So yeah. The other really great thing that we added regarding filters is they're sticky. So if I go in and I want to say, you know what, please stop showing me overdue tasks maybe. I don't want to see overdue tasks anymore, and I never want to. Or I want to always look at the creative team because maybe I'm managing the creative team and they're the only ones that I need to actually concern myself with. I can go away, I can come back, they're going to stay. That was something we've gotten so many requests for, and I'm really happy to have added it in. So you don't need to choose those filters every time. They're going to be remembered. That includes your front loading calculation. You won't have to keep switching it. The other thing I want to call out, and I think this one, I'll hear people cheering in my own mind, is we are now letting you pick a different formatting for the taskbar name and the service name. So if you keep an eye on these things here, we can see it just says logo design. But if I change this from just task name to say, show me the company name and the task name, we can now see it says Great Atlantic Insurance logo design. Super insightful, really gives you a good idea of what you have to work on. Of course, some of these work bars aren't long enough to actually fit that, but some people just really don't care. They're like, we want the full company name. We have these long tasks. It's going to make them so much more insightful. And for those ones that do use shorter tasks, we also included the company code, a little bit shorter, a little bit easier. But then you also have like job name, job number, and task. This is awesome if you use task groups to indicate like phases or the deliverable type. I'm a big fan of this one. And for those orange bars, you can choose what you want their formatting to be separately, whether it's going to be the service group or the company code and whatnot. So you can choose it effectively. So that is another cool feature. Very exciting. All right. That is the work planning view and all of the cool releases that we came out with recently. We got about 7 more minutes before I let you all go, but what I want to talk about at that time is what's coming up. Always a very exciting portion of these sessions. So what is coming up here? Function point to Google and Outlook integration. You are very shortly going to be able to create your own filters to determine exactly what exports from function point to your calendar, Google or Outlook. So that's to say also, it's not just going to be like every single task. You can take multiple calendars. You could build multiple filters and have them filter in. So if you're like a project manager and you want a calendar for all of your tasks, but then also all of the tasks that on jobs that you're an AE on, you can totally do that. The goal here is it's going to be very customizable. And it's also going to update in real time for your Google and Outlook calendar. The next one is task dependency improvements. I am very excited about this one. Task dependencies are such an important part of building a really strong schedule. You are going to be able to create tasks with multiple predecessors. So I'm going to go into the system quickly to show you because I'm just really excited about it. If I go to the schedule here, you're going to see, I'm going to add another task really quickly. This is, I'm just going to say deliver. I'm just going to say delivery. And I'm going to go into the GAM view. We know with dependencies, we could, of course, say that like design leads to delivery being able to be executed on, but we can't actually drag project management and do it too. You can't connect two predecessors to a single dependency. You are going to be able to do that. That is going to be coming out in the next quarter. Definitely going to be helpful for having like, yeah, sort of like these milestones or delivery dates that are, you're only going to be able to execute them or say that they've been done when like a whole collection of tasks are finally completed. So that's coming up, as well as you're going to be able to link dependencies between tasks on different jobs. I think this is going to be a really cool one. I see it being very helpful for media teams, especially when we're connecting like the actual media buying and placement to like the asset creation. So you can really like get your social media teams and your design teams like working together. You can create multiple jobs for those teams so they can work independently, manage their own budgets, but then also their tasks have to do with one another. So we're going to be able to link dependencies between those different jobs. And then finally, we're going to be introducing the task drawer. This is something I keep saying I'm excited for all of them, and I am, but this one's going to be really cool. It's a whole new component to Function Point, where basically we're starting with tasks specifically so that we can really help with project management and end users task management, where if you're clicking on a task within the system, maybe it's on your dashboard and you're just clicking the task name on your tasks and to-dos panel, a drawer is going to open up from the side of the page that shows you all of the information relating to that task and allows you to edit it right from there, so that instead of something like this where I want to make changes to design being brought to another task page, you're just going to have a slide out from the side. It's going to show you all that information. You're going to be able to click and make changes and see all the other information while also keeping eyes on what you were originally doing on that page. Really the goal here is to simplify your user journey, make it so much cleaner, and just give you everything you need like right at your fingertips. The other really cool thing about this release is it's going to be the first look at our new user interface. So it's going to be a bit of a redesign, and that is going to be something that you're going to be able to see slowly start taking over the rest of Function Point. And I'm very excited because definitely the name of the game with this release is improved user journey, improved user experience. We want to make sure that you get to utilize all of the many, many cool features that we have and are continuously releasing in a really easy to use system that's just super quick and manageable. So it's going to be a really cool next session. I'm very excited to meet back with you all and talk about these things. We're going to have lots to talk about. So with that being said, oh, I guess one more chance for questions. I'm sure there probably is quite a few questions about these new features. Daria, anything popping up that is general enough I could answer at this time?
No, honestly, you're all good.
Okay, cool. Well, for anyone who does have any questions in there that we maybe like haven't answered, I'm sure Daria is like typing in and answering a whole bunch. We're gonna make sure we get to like any others that require like your CSM to get to, or if you are sharing any ideas, I will definitely be taking a look. That is it for us today. I hope you're all really excited about what's coming next, and I'm really looking forward to hearing all of the success stories with utilizing the new work planning view features. That's all from us, and have a great day.